And we are back.
Hello, John.
Hey, Carrie. So we're having our usual tech difficulties. This has nothing to do with the fact that we're over 50. Just letting you know. But we have Elizabeth. I have Elizabeth calling me on the line because we're trying to connect her. So hello, Elizabeth. Okay. So there you are. Okay, very good. So you're in good shape. So we're gonna do our little intro and we'll be right back to you. Okay, good. Well, she is connected. So this
Yay.
is fantastic.
Well done.
Anyway, so we are Carrie Hannon and John Tarnoff. We are the Lucy and Desi of Second Act Careers. And we are here to have a little bit of fun, a little bit of intellectual stimulation, and a little bit of inspiration, hopefully, around the challenges and opportunities that occur when you hit 50 and things start to kind of go different in your mind about who you are, what you want to do, etc. So I think that's in lieu of my usual canned speech about what this show is about. Anything to add, Carrie?
I think you captured it. I think that sounds pretty good, John. And we've got a great guest today.
Very much looking forward to talking with Elizabeth. But first, as we do, we're going to talk about our headline of the week, which is kind of relevant to this conversation that we're having today with Elizabeth. So we saw this in courts this week, and it's not a long piece, but what's kind of good about this piece is that it aggressively frames the issue of financial security, which we're going to be talking about with Elizabeth, and paints this kind of global picture of the age bubble and the fact that no one has prepared for this. No one seems to be preparing for this, and that we are, as if we don't have enough problems right now or that we're going to be dealing with in the future, no one's really dealing with this.
Yeah, and I think it's worth everyone taking a look at if you can. I just think it sort of captures the things that John and I tend to talk about a lot when we give speeches and when we write. And, it's really taking a look at, we all need to, and it's for the generations coming behind us as well. It's really planning for these longer working lives and longevity in our life in general, and certain even public policy things like how we have to start taking money from our retirement accounts at a certain age and so forth. Some of these things really need to be reconsidered.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that that really kind of frames the conversation that we're going to have. And so I'd like to just bring Elizabeth on to say hi. Yay. And there she is. Yay, well we figured this out. This is great. This is great.
Oh, hello, Elizabeth.
Hello. The thing that I loved about what you just said is other generations. This is not a silly little boomer problem.
That's right. That's right. We are it starts with us, but it certainly doesn't end with us. It is, this is a problem that's going to be going on for quite a while.
But we have a chance to make some of these solutions. And I think some of the things that, Elizabeth, you work on and care so deeply about really fits into this talk about what kinds of things do we need to be thinking about in this next act to make a difference in the world coming behind us.
Yeah. Hey, before we get into the conversation, let me just introduce Elizabeth to our viewers and listeners who may not be familiar with her. So Elizabeth White is the author of this amazing book, which you all have to read, called 55 Underemployed and Faking Normal, which was published by Simon & Schuster. She is an age solutions advocate for older adults facing uncertain work and financial insecurity. So here's what's interesting. When she could not find a book that met her needs during her own bout with long-term unemployment, she wrote it herself. As a 62-year-old woman, a Harvard MBA, former retail entrepreneur, and C-suite executive, she had never expected to land in this situation, which really describes a lot of the people that I think we all are encountering at this age who find themselves in similar straits. She is a frequent contributor to publications like Barron's, Forbes, Huffington Post, Market Watch, Next Avenue, and the Washington Post, and a frequent speaker at conferences and workshops. And she was also featured in this great multi-part reportage on the PBS NewsHour, which I love. And she has this TEDx talk, which has garnered nearly 2 million views. It was featured on the TED Radio Hour. It was pretty great. And to top it all off, she has testified before the Senate Special Committee on Aging. So we have a really special guest with us here today, and very much looking forward to talking with her. So there we go.
And you are two of my favorite people. I am really happy to be here.
Well, we're delighted, and it has been so fun to get to work with you, Elizabeth, and in this whole arena. So what I'm so excited about, and so is John, is we want to learn about what's your new act. You've got a new act, and we want to hear about what's going on and sort of describing this new venture. And it's really something I think our listeners are really going to enjoy hearing about.
So this is amazing. And I was saying to John, one of the and I think we all actually talk about this, the benefits of knowing people of all ages. So I have in my friendship circle people who are 10 years older and people who are 20 years younger. And what I find often with my younger friends is that they're in a loop that I'm not in anymore, because I'm not in that sort of 9 to 5 everyday work world. And so they know where the money is, who the rising stars are, what the new initiatives are. And somebody told me, good friend, about a program, an incubator startup, that she was part of the first cohort with an organization called Ideas 42. And she said, you've got all these ideas, you should join. Well, I've been an entrepreneur before. I think, as I've told both of you, I sold widgets. I had retail stores, not selling services, which is a very different animal. And she said, no, they will really support you. So I applied. I throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall, as we do at this age. And when there were 4 rounds, and I was told I made it from the second to the third round. So this now became realer as a possibility. And then in January, I was told I got it. So I'm one of 5.
Wow.
I feel a little bit, I said to John, like Grandma Moses. I am the oldest by like 30 years. At least 25 years.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And it is, it's unusual. There are a lot of these sort of, $10,000 hackathons, and you come up with, this is really an investment in the 5 of us. It is, we bet on the jockey, not the horse. And you come in without an idea. So I know generally it will be in the longevity space, probably on housing, but I haven't totally landed there, because for 6 months, we're figuring out what the play is going to be. What is the big societal problem that we want to kind of put our weight on? And it's not like you can, change these huge systemic barriers, but what is a big enough idea that I want to, kind of take a run at moving the needle a little bit? So it's been quite something.
So
this spend me 6 months thinking about like the problems and where I'm going to land. So I had I think I emailed you, Carrie, and then John and I talked about this a couple of days ago.
Yep.
So this is interesting to me, because this is not kind of your classic idea-based, concept-based process. It's not like you said, I've got an idea for a company and they're saying, we want to fund it. They're saying, you're a really interesting person. There's got to be something, you have a soapbox. There's got to be a pony in here somewhere, right?
And they're looking at, each one of us is interested in a big systemic problem, all different. So I'm the one in the longevity age space, others, opportunity youth, LGBTQIA, a barrier there, fintech, it's all different. So they looked at, I think, what you've done before. So all of us have in some way or at some time been an entrepreneur. And then is the arena that you're interested in, does this address a big issue?
Right.
And I think they were particularly, I was saying to them at one point, Slack and Miro and Notion and all this technology that they use commonly. If you are like many of us, we're sort of lone rangers. We are, consultants. We're rowing our own little canoes. So you don't always have to be so part of the collaboration technology that many younger workers are part of. So I was telling them, it's a lot of resources that they're investing. So I've hired someone who can work with me on the technology. And this is.
Don't you find that so energizing, Elizabeth? I think, I recently started at Yahoo Finance, and it's that same thing. There's Slack, there's all these communication channels that I had not used in the past, but I'm having a ball, like ramping it up. And I'm sure that you are as well.
Yes.
What I'm interested in hearing from you, and I think it's interesting at this stage, they saw you telegraphed something to them and going through your experience that you were forward looking, that you were, because we often get sort of people come at us saying, we're too stuck in the past, but no, you showed them there was something about you that sparked, like, I'm driven, I'm motivated. Was there something in particular that motivated, that sort of came up to the surface?
So I think what we bring at this stage, and I really stand in it, and I think the two of you do as well, we can synthesize a lot of information. We bring insights from across different disciplines. We can quickly see the next step. We are curious in the world. We are interested in what's happening. That energy, you communicate it. So in this area of longevity, that's how I occupy this space, as do the two of you. And they said to me at one point when I was talking to them about the technology, they said, there's so many reasons we chose you. One of them is that you would bring these issues to our attention. And this Ideas 42 is behavioral science. It's the kind of work that they're doing in the world. So they're looking at what motivates people to do things or not do things, incentive frameworks, etc. So they're aware of, a third of the workforce right now is over 50, over 55. We are not like, a little sideshow, and those numbers are increasing. So it wasn't accidental that I was one in the cohort.
Right. Mm-hmm. And do you think that this is an indication of a more mainstream acceptance, or really seeking out of older workers to balance this equation out in, as you say, a workforce that is rebalancing?
So I definitely feel, so I've been in this, I guess, 6 years, a little over 6 years. I do sense a difference in the conversation from when I first sort of came into the space. It's more a cracking of the door, I would call it, than the doors just, and everybody gets it. But I think as we've, all talked about, the pandemic did certain things. The mass resignation kind of cracked the door a little bit for us. The pandemic, in the sense, if you had told us 2 years ago that 70% of the country would be working remotely, oh no, that had never happened. But now for us, and if you had asked for that, you've been run out of town on a spear. You just didn't even talk about wanting to do remote work. Now it's common. So many people tell me they never expect to work 9 to 5 going in every day again. So I think these kinds of things the need for grounded, serious people who are not going to sort of leave in 6 months, those skill sets now mean something to employers. So I think there's a shift. We need a lot more. I think
And
you'd
then
agree we need a lot
and
more.
coming out of the pandemic, Elizabeth, also this idea of just what you're doing, entrepreneurship, I see that as one of the big trends coming out for older workers, people over 50, because they've kind of said, okay, I've thought about my priorities. Maybe I took an early retirement package, or maybe I was laid off, but heck, I don't want to go back down that main lane again. I want to do something I've always wanted, or I have a vision like you do. So I think you're really at a cutting edge of leading the way in this area. It had started before. We definitely saw entrepreneurs in this age group prior to the pandemic. But my goodness, I think in the last 2 years, we have seen quite an uptick, and we'll see the numbers really playing out.
And I think it was Kaufman reported that a quarter of all new entrepreneurs are 55 and up.
Yeah.
And there's some really good, you always think of, the kid in his parents' basement, that's, the success story. I think it was MIT and Northwestern. I mean, they looked at a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's really the older entrepreneurs over 45 who are the ones that are most likely to be really successful. So it's I was saying to someone yesterday, the whole kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem is really geared towards growth. And I think a lot of older adults that we're not necessarily, there's some, who want $100 million exit. I think there's not enough room for entrepreneurs who are looking for smaller businesses to supplement their Social Security or some other income stream they have. They're not looking for $10 million. They need a $100,000 loan. That whole area, the kind of either necessity or lifestyle entrepreneur, there's not a lot there in terms of supporting this interest that you're talking about that I think older workers do have now in entrepreneurship.
Is this something, what you've just described, is this something that you would consider in your incubation venture addressing as some way of institutionally supporting people who are, as you say, looking to do something that is going to be entrepreneurial, but not on that kind of venture capital scale, 40x kind of hockey stick, right?
Where I'm leaning, there's sort of two areas I'm leaning. One is housing. And I had a woman say to me once, she said, Elizabeth, if I could get my housing together, I can extreme coupon it the rest of the way.
Right.
And, sort of kind of thinking about a model that would, I'm actually new construction actually that would allow people to live together in a creative way.
Right.
And it's because so many, a dear friend of mine, just $10,000 behind in rent, and all that then the sort of cascading consequence of that. And I have seen many women challenged on the housing side. The other side that I'm interested in is, how do we stay employed longer? Because that's the other piece of it. So I don't know sort of which one, but kind of leaning towards the housing.
Well, just parenthetically on the housing, I live in Los Angeles. The growth in homelessness, of course, in Los Angeles is legendary. Most of that growth is fueled by people over 50.
Yes.
And in the last couple of years specifically. So we're seeing this real struggle for people who are holding down jobs to actually live in their own homes. And there was a kind of a really interesting reportage about a woman who was continuing to work and was couch surfing until she could no longer, she kind of ran out of people and she just would not impose. And so she wound up on the street and in shelters. And just recently, apparently, was able to get into a housing project, a reduced cost housing project after 3 or 4 years of this.
But Elizabeth, becoming from, we talked about it at the top of the show about working the generations working together for your project. Are you thinking of ways that you can team up with somebody younger so that your business that you do come up with really has legs to go on beyond your own efforts in it? You've been an entrepreneur before, you know what it takes. Can you share some of your thinking there?
No, I am I'm 68. Okay, so a 10-year play for me puts me at almost 80. Okay, so I am definitely looking to partner with a younger person who is passionate in this area, that we can really build something together. I think it just, makes sense. They knew how old I was when I join. That's not going to change. So I'm completely open to that. And, talking to people now, just sort of exploring what is possible. I mean, the key thing for me, what's exciting is, can I build something that could really impact a lot of people? Can I it feels like such a blessing and opportunity to have one more hard run at something, where I know what I know now, I know you guys, that I can say, what do you think of this? And you get feedback. So I'm really excited to be in this space. And I'm really clear that it's not just, me to do it by myself. I have a really great team at Ideas 42, and I'm also looking for a partner who wants to go on this journey with me.
Have they talked with you, and are you all talking amongst yourselves in the cohort about benchmarks, models, not so much in terms of the business, but in terms of the process to ideate and to kind of channel that business in?
No, and very much. And I've had lots of invitations over, my career. This one is really unique. And I had to, and I'm still having to get into a mindset space for it. So what I mean is, as I'm sort of Black woman, older Black woman. So I have the trifecta, of the isms. And what that means is that you try not to be in the world as a cynical person, but you are in the world. You are, mindful of your surroundings. You're mindful of systemic barriers. You're mindful of, here's that comment again,
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is, Ideas 42 is, we want to roll back the barriers that you as an entrepreneur would typically face. We're going to pull them back. And then the invitation is, how creative can you be? You're like, whoa, how big can you think?
Because money is the biggest stumbling block for almost everyone, right? I mean, that's really a challenge. And if you feel protected there, you can be creative.
Right. And it's, I have a friend, whenever there's a big, debate going on, he'll say at some point, I've heard your analysis, I've heard your critique. What is your transformative idea? The room immediately goes silent, because we spend a lot of time on what we're against, what we don't like, what we don't want. We spend much less time, if it could be what we wanted, what is it? So I have had to, because when you're in advocacy, you're often talking about what you don't like, what what's wrong with the picture, what isn't happening. So this invitation now to, we're going to take away the financial challenges. We're going to take away that you don't have a team. We're going to take away that you can't buy the expertise. We're going to, if you need coaching, if you need, someone to help you with the technology, we're going to take all that away. So now it's just, what can you imagine? That's not an invitation we get. We don't get that invitation.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you're banging on this door and suddenly on the other side, they open it suddenly. You're like, ah!
It's so great. Well, I mean, John, I'll give you a second, but you've been an entrepreneur before. What are the keys? What does it take to really be an entrepreneur? And at any age, are there any key sort of things that from your experience, you could share with the people out there?
So the last time I was an entrepreneur, I was very clear what I wanted to do. So I had a chain of retail stores that sold, I called them Afrocentric lifestyle stores. And I sold decorative home products. This was stuff I was sourcing from Africa and everywhere. And I came into it. My mother was my, first I had a good friend that was a business partner. That's a whole show just on that. It almost wrecked our friendship. Then my mother became my partner. My sister was in the business. So there was kind of all that. And it lasted for 10 years. It went some distance. Was sobering. I before then had advised people who had businesses. And then suddenly I had a payroll. It was very humbling, that experience. This feels very different. We're talking here about building a software company, and how you even think about that is very different than widgets. So I am happy to come back to you guys as I'm going along and learning and sharing with you and your audience, like what this journey is like for a 60-plus-year-old woman, who is learning. I'm learning. It's, some of the tech stuff that you're talking about, Carrie, the mindset, but I'm thrilled about it.
What a great way to go out. I think this is a fantastic point that you're making, and so supportive, I think, for everyone who's watching or listening to the show.
And I just think, Elizabeth, you exude such positivity, really. And the fact that you're learning, that's what we need to hang on to. That's the secret, isn't it? Because that instantly gets you thinking forward and appreciating what you can do, not what you can't do.
And so when I wrote my book, I was at a place of real despair. And I know it's hard if you feel like you're circling the drain to get this energy. But the book is to hold your hand through that. And, a resilient circle of people that you can tell the truth to, because it's hard if you're struggling financially to kind of have this, but you can get it back. That's what I'd say. You can get it back.
Great. Well, we will put a link to the book in the show notes, and we will also put a link to Ideas 42 so that people can check out that venture as well. And we thank you for being on the show. This was really great.
Thank you for having me, both of you.
Take care.
So what we're going to do now is say goodbye to Elizabeth, and we are going to talk about our next second act show, which is going to be taking place in 2 weeks. And we have the very estimable Catherine Collinson, who's the CEO and president of the Transamerica Institute and the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, who does some great research on this area, and very much looking forward to what she has to say.
I have to add that Catherine wrote the foreword to my new book, which will be out April 26th.
Fantastic. So again, it's this small world which we are mining and which we are going to expand. So there we go. Any last words? I think it was great to have Elizabeth with us
No.
on the show.
Go
And
Elizabeth. That's what I say. We all
fantastic.
need that kind of focus and energy. I loved
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much for tuning in, and take good care.
Thanks, everyone.